Hey y'all, how's it going? It's Mia. We're here to talk She-Hulk episode 1 and I'm a little loopy right now because this is the second time I'm recording this video. Right now I'm in Chicago. They are practicing outside for the Air and Water show, which means it sounds like Top Gun 2 out there. I mean, they're going full steam ahead. Tom Cruise and all of his pals are out there just having a good old time. So I'm hopefully in between a nice little break. I shouldn't even be explaining more. I just need to jump right into it because I'm like so paranoid that they're gonna come back. So She-Hulk, wow, what a fun ride, guys. I will say this was very fun. This was a fun first episode. I really like where they're going with this. It's just kind of unfortunate that I came in with a bit of Marvel fatigue. Kind of, it's like I was being forced to watch this. I know I'm not, but you know, it was like all things considered, seeing as it felt like I really have not had the time to recover from Miss Marvel, and then having that be stacked on top of Thor Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness and Moon Knight as well. It's been a lot, and so I don't know, maybe it's just my wish for 2023 that we can get a fairly slowed down schedule, because it's just not as fun hopping from project to project to project just because we have to kind of, you know, we have to get all these characters out and we have to churn out the next phase of the MCU. So I don't know, man, but you know, after a while, after I got settled into the show, I was enjoying it. And I think Tatiana Maslany was really great as Jen Walters. She's got this kind of, it's kind of like a Broad City sort of feel to it. It's got, you know, a little bit of Fleabag mixed into it. And so I was thinking, like, she is not like by any means an original character as far as like character archetypes go. Like, it's been said and done before, but I guess it is kind of neat to see it done in the context of the MCU. And so that's also where this kind of shines, because it is more of a comedy than probably most Marvel projects do have a lot of comedy put into them. And you know, Marvel also gets a lot of flack for the brand of humor that they inject into things, but with this one being framed as a comedy specifically, not so much like Seinfeld or Community, but you know, just more of your typical like HBO comedy series or Comedy Central, that too. So I did enjoy that. What I'm wondering though is specifically about the fourth wall breaking, kind of the way that Fleabag does, or I mean more specifically like Deadpool, right? We all know Deadpool is a fourth wall breaker. And I was just wondering, you know, if she's going to continue to break the fourth wall in the series, which I do think is a fun kind of thing like Fleabag, like I said, but I'm wondering if this is going to be something that continues on when she is like in an Avengers movie, let's say. Like, is she going to be like, so that just happened? Or, you know, is she not going to do it? But then is it going to be weird because she's not breaking the fourth wall and we're so used to her breaking the fourth wall because it's kind of built into her character. So that's going to be kind of strange to see what they do with her outside of this. Again, it's only been an episode, so I don't know. We'll get the feel for it eventually. But yeah, a lot of, I guess, kind of fresh ideas for the MCU coming in here. Another thing that I've been wondering about is how superhero is She-Hulk going to be? Because as we know, you can pretty much go to the grocery store and get some superpowers now in the MCU. Like, you're not, you know, cool anymore. It's not exclusive. It's not a big deal when you come into powers. And so it almost feels like just about anybody can be an Avenger. But what's interesting about this is when she was having her conversation with Banner, she was like, I don't necessarily care to be a superhero, care to be in the Avengers. And I'm like, it's kind of honorable for her to be like, I just want to be a lawyer and I want to help people in that way. So it does make me wonder, as we go on, is this something she's going to embrace where she sticks to her guns and she's like, no, I just want to be a courtroom lawyer. I want to use my powers in the courtroom however I can in that way. Or will she eventually kind of be like the rest of them and be your typical superhero and, you know, all that with great power comes great responsibility stuff. So I don't know. I would like to, it's kind of a weird thing to think about, like even how some people were talking about Steve Rogers, like, and if Steve Rogers went back in time, why didn't he stop all these things from happening? And it's like, well, I'm not here to answer that question, but you know, it just kind of makes you wonder, like, how much responsibility do you have? And maybe that's not the conversation I wanted to have right now. I just kind of went off on a tangent, but yeah, more things to like about this. I also like that this felt pretty grounded into the in the MCU compared to some of the other Phase 4 stuff like Shang-Chi or Eternals, and I was like, even Miss Marvel kind of felt disconnected from the MCU. And I think what works with this series is because it's attached to one of the original Avengers. Like, you know, I've been loving Bruce Banner since 2012 Avengers, and you know, Bruce Banner, I mean, the Hulk just as a whole is a big Marvel staple, you know, been in films before, and so that's what I like about this. And you know, like even some of the first wave Marvel stuff like WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, the first wave of like Disney Plus television shows, those felt like the MCU as well, because we've known those characters for quite a while now. And so that's why it's felt like this stuff like Moon Knight and Miss Marvel have kind of felt, because they're newer, they felt not so connected to the MCU yet. And so I still have this argument going, like, you know, do these projects all have to be connected? Do they all have to flow into place, you know? And like everyone has been kind of saying, hey, the MCU Phase 4 feels kind of disconnected. What's going on here? And I think I have the perfect kind of explanation now about how this could maybe be handled, between like, sometimes I'm like, ooh, I do like a standalone project, and then other times I'm like, okay, where is this going? And I literally think, or like, if they didn't have phases at all, I could accept stuff not always connecting to each other. So to me, the example I thought of was like the Skywalker saga, right? Like, I was like, so what makes The Mandalorian different from like The Rise of Skywalker or New Hope? And I was like, it's literally because it's not a part of the Skywalker saga. So anything episodes 1 through 9 for Star Wars, I'm like, I'm expecting those to all flow. When they say that they're gonna come out with a sequel series, I'm expecting every single movie to come out with that to relate to the last one and to flow into the last one, because that's just the way that it's set up. So I think that's kind of the expectation with the MCU, is that even if we're telling a different story for a different character, you know, it's still a part of this saga, it's still a part of this Phase 4, so I'm expecting that flow to be continuous. And I think seriously, if they were to say, okay, here is our Phase 4 stuff, or here is our, what do they call it? Multiverse saga, right? Here is what's gonna fit into the multiverse saga, and then here's what's not, right? Like The Mandalorian, you know, I'm not expecting that to have, you know, any huge consequences towards the Skywalker saga. So, you know, what if Moon Knight, for example, was kind of like The Mandalorian, where they're like, yeah, this doesn't really fit into the multiverse saga. You don't really have to, you know, care so much in that way. This is just like a one-off kind of thing. I think that would be so much more digestible, guys. That was just a random idea that I had today. So I think Kevin Feige needs to call me, because if not, you know, they've got a lot of sweeping up to do. But of course, I did like that there were some, you know, MCU, I guess, like, are they even Easter eggs if it's all a part of the MCU? But just like, it was nice to hear about these MCU things, like Tony Stark building that lab in Mexico, and him and Banner just hanging out, and also the Sicarian ship that attacks them in the beginning. That was kind of interesting to see that they're kind of still on his tail about escaping. You know, is the Grand Master upset about him leaving, or are they gonna set up a real Planet Hulk? I don't know. I don't know anything about Planet Hulk, but I think that's kind of interesting. I thought the MCU was like done with the Hulk after this, but maybe not. And of course, we get kind of the new origin story with Jyn, right? She and Banner in a car accident. One thing leads to another, and his blood gets into her system, and now she's got a little bit of gamma radiation, but she handles it better. I think it's a pretty fair kind of origin story for them to do. Like, she didn't have to have a blood transfusion to save her life. It was just kind of quick and easy. We get so many origin stories nowadays, and I'm like, I don't think we need it anymore beyond that. Let's just jump into the story. So I was fine with that. Other MCU things. Captain America, what a great... You know, I didn't think I would go in learning this much information about Captain America, but I did, and it's good to know. It's good to have in the back of my brain. One thing though that was kind of weird for me, and I don't know if anyone else felt this way, was kind of the characterization of Bruce Banner in this. He seemed kind of out of character, or more specifically towards the end when Jen Walters was wanting to leave. She was like, okay, I gotta figure it out now, let me go. And he was, it just didn't seem right to me. Like in Avengers, Bruce Banner was such a cinnamon roll, you know, he was like this the entire time. He was like, you know, he's skittish and all that stuff. And, you know, I think that's what made the dynamic between him and the Hulk personality so powerful, was because they were just these extreme opposites. You know, like you have this nice, quiet, shy lab guy, you know, like on one hand, and then you've got the rip and roaring Hulk. So it kind of even made me uncomfortable during those scenes to see him go, I was like kind of psycho narcissist on her, like, you know, I know better and you can't leave, and all of my experiences, I know what's good for you. And I'm like, okay, maybe what they were trying to do here, because there is a kind of, I don't know if I want to call it a feminist angle, but there's this angle of, you know, the female perspective, the female experience here. So I'm like, were they trying to kind of like paint a picture about that type of situation or experience that women find themselves in sometimes, you know? I was like, I definitely could relate to some degree, but I don't think that using Banner was the appropriate person. It just, like I said, it felt very out of character for him. And even to see her like beat the crap out of her in frustration, I was like, I know they're like trying to be like, oh, you know, they're just getting it all out, but it just felt kind of uncomfortable. And so I'm like, maybe you can blame it and say it's the smart Hulk personality, like it's the blending between Banner and the Hulk, but I just don't quite buy that. I think like the original Hulk or the original Banner would kind of just give her, you know, kind of this freedom to say, you know, okay, you listen to me and I guess I gotta let you go, so, you know, so be it. I tried to tell you. That's my Mark Ruffalo impression, by the way. But I'm like, you know, I hate to say it, but Joss Whedon Banner would never, you know, that was just kind of strange. But so now that leads us to ask what's next. You know, I'm looking forward to the next episode. I found this one really enjoyable, but this one was really just an origin. It didn't really tell us a lot about where the story is going, aside from her wanting to, or having the ability to use her powers in the courtroom. So the whole thing with like Jamila Jamil's character Titania, when she bursts into the courtroom at the end, it will be interesting to see where they go with that, because from what it seems like, she's going to be a kind of staple character in the show, at least as far as marketing. But it was just kind of weird that she just burst into the courtroom without saying a word. She just woke up and chose violence. I'm like, at least she should have, you know, had at least one line where she states her intentions, like, I'm tired of not getting my due, or I'm out for revenge, you know, and now let me start beating up everyone. She just kind of came in and was like the Tasmanian devil, just going insano style all over the place. I'm like, I need a little motivation from her. I know she's supposed to be, I guess, an influencer or something, and I was like, oh, well, maybe she'll be the first villain influencer, right? She gets her kicks off of, you know, getting hearts and likes online, and I was like, no way, we just saw that in the Batman. The Riddler kind of did it. Not to say, you know, it's too little too late. It's something relatively brand new, so I won't mind if that's the path that they try to go down and kind of put their MCU spin on it. Oh, and one more thing that I wanted to add, I didn't feel too horrible about the CGI. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I've already gotten used to it. Some portions it did seem a little uncanny or like a video game, but I think for the most part I'm okay with it. And I hate saying that because it looks so weird, but maybe I've just gotten used to it. But it didn't detract anything. Obviously I went the whole episode and didn't even realize that I didn't talk about the CGI, so maybe you win this round, Marvel girl. So I think that's all that I have to say. I'm so very thankful that I have heard not one single sonic blast. That was amazing. I was so upset. I was gonna I was literally going to go into Hulk rage mode because of those darn fighter jets. But thank goodness, guys. Let me know what you thought about the first She-Hulk episode, if you're gonna keep watching it, if you're gonna stay tuned. And if you're new here, check out my Thor Love and Thunder review. I've got some great stuff to say about that. There's also a spoiler review. There's also tons and tons of other Marvel reviews that I've done this year that you should check out if you haven't already. So be sure to give this a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, because we will be reviewing She-Hulk every single week till it's over. So that's all I gotta say, guys. I will see you in the next video. Bye.